Hello, my beautiful peoples. My name is Savonne Pearson.
And I'm Alysse, Samara.
And girl, we are about to rock your world.
We about to rock it.
We about to rock it. We're going to tell you about a little something you just didn't know before. This is a safe space, though. If this is a revelation that you're coming to, we've been there. We both been there. And it's okay, girl. Just listen.
Just come on in. Take a seat.
Grab a snack.
A drink, your wine, your popcorn, a Capri Sun,
your
if you're underage, you know.
So in this series, we're going to be discussing the Lesbian Masterdoc. If you don't know what it is, we put the link in the description. We highly encourage you to just read it or just skim through it. There's a too long didn't read at the bottom for you people that don't like to read. So just look at it before you come and watch this video, because we're going to be discussing the subject matter in the doc, and we're also going to be talking about our own experiences and just tying it all together. And girl, we want this to be a safe space. Please, if you want to share your own story, go ahead and put it in the comments below. We just kind of want to make this a space that people can just talk about their identities and talk about their experiences. So we will be hitting on some of the topics straight from the doc. So here, I'll get my journal here so I can tell you the specific topics. So we'll be hitting on attraction, and this says attraction to men. We'll be hitting on sex and intimacy with men. Not that this is all about men, but
I mean, we kind of have to talk about.
We have to talk if we have to talk about the men.
We do.
We'll talk about the early interest in women, our gender feelings. We're gonna explore our attraction to women, and we're gonna talk about the straight version of you. And then the other one that I don't really like to say because it just seems so considering lesbianism. So those are the topics we're going to hit in this series. If you're interested, go ahead and subscribe and turn on the notifications so that you don't miss when we upload an episode in the series. I'm not sure how many parts there will be yet because we have a lot to go through. But like I said, look at the Master Doc so that we can start this discussion. So it's coming up on a year since I came out as a lesbian. I think I came out as bisexual. I came out as bisexual probably a year and some change ago, but now it's coming up on a year that I came out as a full lesbian, as I actually am. And that is mainly in part because of this Master Doc. When I read this doc, my life was changed, and it kind of just shook my whole perspective on everything. Heteronormativity speaking.
I just found this document. I just read it this past Thursday. But I've pretty much been out for, I don't even know how long it's been. Oh my god.
This is really... we made a video, a Snapchat video, and it was just look at my lesbian friend, she finally came out.
I remember that.
And I think it was in AJB's class when we had look at my fellow lesbos.
I don't want dick no more.
No dick. So it was
the beginning.
January-ish.
Yeah.
So you've been out since January.
Wow.
It's been
all year.
Almost
y'all.
6 months. Yeah.
I've been out all year.
Wow.
When I first read the Master Doc, it really made me think about a lot of the sociological things I have read in the past. I read it and I was like, oh, this reminds me of misogyny, sociology and gender and things like that. So this was a really interesting read to me.
Yes, and I think it's just a super interesting discussion, and that's why I want to make this a discussion-based thing. This is not a set thing. This isn't the lesbian handbook, and if you don't agree with everything in here, then you're just clearly not a lesbian. This is not what this is. It's just a discussion, and we want to start this discussion. But I think a lot of things in here need to be talked about, and I think a lot of things are true. So yeah, we'll just get right into it. I hope we got your interest a little bit. We're gonna get into it now. Let's go.
Let's bring them in. Compulsory
heterosexuality. Man, honestly, when I read this doc, I did not read it like that. I was just like, and then I kept reading. Like, I never like said compulsory heterosexuality. So if it sounds like I'm stumbling on it, it's because I am. Because I have not said this out loud as much, because it's only been a read.
It's honestly a mouthful.
Yeah, so we're going to abbreviate it to comp het. All right, so we're going to read through the doc, and we're just going to discuss it and discuss our thoughts. And you'll catch on with it. And if you have something that you want to say, go ahead and put it in the comments. Make this a discussion. Compulsory is the opposite of optional. Okay, so compulsory heterosexuality is exactly what it sounds like. Being straight is something our culture tries to force on us. A statement. And that statement really reeled me in. So it affects people of every gender, but it's mostly been studied as something that affects women. This is because compulsory heterosexuality, comp het, easily ties in with the misogyny that causes women's sexualities and even identities to be defined by our relationships with men. Say it again. Say it again. Yes. Women are taught from a very early age that making men happy is our job. We're supposed to be pretty for men. We're supposed to change the way we talk for men, and so that men will take us more seriously. We're supposed to want a man's love more than anything else. Our magazines are full of sex tips on how to please men. Our movies are about how we're supposed to fall in love with men. We literally cannot exist in public without men loudly grading us on how well we're pleasing them visually.
Tell me about it.
Wow.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
But already it's just like...
It's hard hitting.
Valid points.
Yeah, I would say so. And the only counter I would have is I don't think I was taught personally that making a man happy was my job, but I think it was the societal norms that kind of showed me that. And I kind of wanted to like put that out there.
Also, I think that it's important to think that it's not like just what you're directly taught. Like, it can be a lot of the things like, well, in my house, I feel like it kind of didn't, they weren't telling me directly like you need to cater to men, but I was always expected to kind of clean up after my father and things like of that nature. Like, if I cooked, I always was supposed to cook for him, like, no matter what.
Yeah.
You feel me? Like,
oh my goodness.
You know, like, just like different, like, kind of like microaggressions.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Type things. So there are different ways that it can be kind of shown. So what happens when you want to be with women? What happens when you're not attracted to men at all? When you're trained from childhood to see romantic/sexual relationship with men and only men as major life goals, how do you separate that from what you want?
Now that's something that I suffered from. Because, you know, I, just from, like, movies and television, I was really taught from a young age, like, you're gonna eventually get married, you're gonna eventually have a wedding, and that was just something for me. I was like, that's eventually just gonna happen. And I would have my boyfriends, and it was weird for me because I was never able to put them in that wedding position. Like, I would see myself with someone, but I didn't think about the gender at all. It was just like they literally just didn't fit in the picture. And I didn't understand. Like, they're just not fitting. But also, I just felt like that's just what I was going to do eventually. Like, that was going to be the goal at the end. Like, I'll find somebody eventually who will fit. And it happened. It just wasn't that gender.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that as well, because, I mean, it has definitely always been expected I was going to have, well, you can get married to your husband, my mother would say.
Oh, goodness.
You know, like, my dad, one time, he told me, like, one day you're going to want to try to dress up to impress those little boys. And I was just like,
how old were you?
I was a little girl, bro. I was, like, probably, like, 10 years old.
Oh, no.
Like,
no.
Asking me, like, what little boys be talking to me in class and stuff. No. Like, I'm like, bro, what?
As a kid, I would say I definitely did have crushes on dudes. For me, it would be like, okay, look at that person that not everybody likes. I like him. Like,
that low-key, that's a concept that I took on.
Yeah.
Often.
Yeah, because I didn't have a type at all. Like, it would just be like, you. I choose you. Like,
it's such a weird thing.
Yeah.
When you saying it out loud, but it's like,
Yeah, but it just felt like normal.
Okay, like I don't want someone that everyone wants.
No, I just want the different one. So comphet is the voice in my head that says I must really be het even when I'm in love with a woman. Comphet is very similar to
Heteronormativity.
Thank you. The assumption that straight is the default. True. We're trained from birth to believe that we will find someone of the other binary gender, fall in love, have sex, etc. In a million tiny ways, we're taught that the only relationships with the other binary gender are valid. And if you're not one of the binary genders, this can be even more confusing. Very true. I didn't even consider that.
Definitely. I think this is a really important point to make. When was the point that you heard that? Like when was the first time you ever realized that there might not just be two genders?
Man, I think I always knew that was a thing, but I didn't really consider that fact until maybe like high school, college. And that's sad.
Truly.
That's sad. Yeah, because I think college, that's when I started realizing, like, oh, there's other genders.
Right. It's funny how nobody wants to talk about it.
No, and not at all. Like, people just like to brush over it, like, just girl, boy. But, like, what about, like, people who identify as they, them, theirs? Like, that was such an adjustment for me.
Yes.
And it was such a necessary thing because it kind of just opens your world.
It really does.
People are different. Like,
it's amazing. I was in high school. I think I might have been in that social class, that one social class that started everything in high school. And we watched, like, this documentary on, like, I forgot what country. I think it might have been India. And, like, they have this third gender. And I forget what it's called, but it's, like, a general third gender.
Oh.
And, like transgender, I think that it's really similar to our transgender here in the U.S. But it was just like really interesting how it had existed for such a long time and just like seeing the history of it. And then like I want to say about 6 months ago, my best friend came out to me as transgender back home, and I was like, whoa, like I was super accepting because it's just like
it's just
like
I
was gonna love her.
I would say. Think about your early introductions.
So early introductions was all
negative
words with negative connotations.
Negative.
Oh, so negative. Oh my gosh.
I remember there's this movie, I think it's called Monster. And she was a lesbian, I think. But she was she trans? I can't remember. But she was a very, very butch woman. And like, she was just degraded and treated terribly. And they called her like tranny. I think they called her, dyke and butch and like all that stuff. And I think that was like kind of a little earlier introduction to kind of like, wow, like everyone hates you if you're different. But that's just what society kind of pushes on you. Like that's like we were kind of programmed to think that that's wrong.
Definitely, especially if you come from a religious family.
Oh my God.
I'm not even going to get into this too much because I don't want to start no arguments, but
that's a topic for another video.
Right, like you know how that can get sometimes. Yeah. And I won't say that all people are like that because definitely not. In my diversity and media class, I actually watched a documentary about a Methodist pastor performed his gay son's wedding.
I got you.
And he ended up actually losing his ordinance for that. Like, they took it away from him for doing that because he refused to discriminate. Basically, really supportive parent, and a lot of people supported him. He actually ended up getting his credentials back and everything, but he lost it for a few years and was really devastated. But I just thought that was such a powerful story because at first I did kind of have the misconception that most religious people probably weren't supportive at all.
Oh, definitely not. Yeah, I remember as a kid, just a small little tangent about religion. Like, my mom became super religious out of nowhere, and we started going to this church. And I remember as a kid, I was like super, especially high school age, I was super into LGBT rights. I was in like Gay Straight Alliance. I have a plaque that says I was like the best student in Gay Straight Alliance that year because I was just so adamant. I was like such a great straight advocate. And so I remember that it was one of those years I was sitting in the church, and it was like a televised church, and it's, it's really huge. And they were just they started preaching about how being gay was wrong. And I was like, And everyone's just like, yeah, Pastor, keep going. And I'm just like, what? And so I looked at my mom, and I was feeling real rebellious at that time. And I looked at her, and I stood up, and I walked out of the church because I was not about to deal with that. Like, nobody, like, why are we just spewing hate to the masses? Like, that was just, it was so, I just didn't understand it at that time. And now I know why I was so, angry, but it's just wrong in general, like, So, comp het is built into you from the moment you're born into this time and place, and it takes a long time to dismantle it. A very long time. So, that's it for part 1, guys. We didn't want to throw too much at you today.
It was a lot, definitely.
Yeah, I felt like we went through a lot, but we'll give you a little preview of what the next episode will be like, but it'll be kind of in a similar sense. The second part of the series, we'll be talking more about just more of the signs of comp het.
Oh, and also, if you want to see the behind-the-scenes version of how we did this,
yes,
go to my channel at Alysse Samara, or visit my channel at Alysse Samara.
I'll put it in the cards so you can go see where her channel is. But yeah, definitely check it out. She got this cool tripod, and she's starting doing her thing, and I'm so excited for her. So please go check out her vlog channel. She's got some stuff to show you guys.
More vlogs to come soon.
Yes. All right. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next part of the series.
Bye. You have a list of impossible criteria in your head that a man must meet for you to be attracted to him. And if you ever meet someone who matches all the criteria, you just add more impossible standards.
Girl, why? Is your list so long? Why this man gotta be, like, perfect? You ever think about that, girl?
Because she want a fairy tale.
She want a fairy tale. He ain't real. The guy's not real.
And we gonna get to that later.